welcome to today's 5 at 5. I hope you're doing well today. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Today I want to read from John 4, beginning with verse 31 and finishing at verse 34. I would like to read from the New Living Translation. And it begins, "Meanwhile, the disciples were urging Jesus, 'Rabbi, eat something.' But Jesus replied, 'I have a kind of food you know nothing about.'" "Did someone bring him food while we were gone?" the disciples asked each other. Then Jesus explained, "My nourishment comes from doing the will of God who sent me and from finishing his work." I love these verses. So many things can be gleaned from this. First of all, it's always interesting to me that Jesus is saying something and the disciples completely miss it because they are focused on maybe the literal meaning of what he's saying, or they're focused on the physical, and Jesus is speaking on such a higher level. They think he's talking about food that we physically eat to satisfy our physical bodies. And he's telling them, "I have a kind of food you know nothing about." They wonder, well, where did he get this food? And I love Jesus's response. He says, "My nourishment comes from doing the will of God who sent me and from finishing his work." The word that I see and hear as I'm reading this is focus. What is your focus? That is the question. What is your focus? For Jesus, it was very clear. He knew his why. He knew his what. He knew his when. He knew his where. He knew his how. He had focus. And his focus was doing the will of God. What nourishes you? What nourishes me? What is your focus? I find that I don't know about you, but I can be so distracted, focusing on the wrong thing, missing the will of God. But not Jesus. He knew what satisfied him. What satisfies you? What gives you the greatest joy? What is the source of your joy? This is a question we need to ask ourselves. Are we trying to nourish ourselves with unhealthy activities? I was thinking today, there are so many good things that we can be doing, right? But is it the right thing? Is it what God would have us be doing? And so we have to be so careful not to busy ourselves with activities God has not given us to do. Though they be good, is it what God has called us to do? We have to be careful because we can get off track. And I think this is when we find ourselves overwhelmed and frustrated, disillusioned, because we're doing good things, but not what God has called us to do. And we need to make sure, God gives assignments. What is your assignment? If you're trying to do assignments he's not given you, then you can miss doing the assignment he has given you to do, and you can miss doing it well, because maybe you do it, but you don't have time to really do it well because you're doing all of these other good things, right? So we have to be careful what we say yes to, so that we can finish the work that God has given us to do. Don't you want to finish the work? I know I want to. I'm looking at my life, and I'm looking at my activities, and I'm looking at this season as we enter the fall. We see the trees and we see the leaves falling from the trees. And I believe that there's some things that need to fall away so that we can do the work that God has called us to do. I encourage you to follow Jesus. I encourage you to focus on him. That's the only way you're going to be able to follow him. We've got to focus, we've got to follow so we can finish. I pray this has blessed you. And I pray that you'll share it with others. And remember always that we're not just blessed for ourselves. We are blessed to be a blessing. I'll see you next time on the next 5 at 5.